Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
Revolutionary Business Council to speak on the topic of roots of influencing community action, going outward to connect inward.
Is this on? Yeah, fabulous. Good afternoon. I'm Teresa Degrosbois from Calgary, Canada, and this is Sonia Choquette of Chicago, USA. And before I start my session, or our session this afternoon, Sonia and I wanted to ask you to join us in something special to send some comforts to some people halfway around the world. We know many of you have heard in the news that last Friday in the United States, a young man killed his mother and then went to the school at which she taught and turned a gun on 20 children and 6 adults. He then killed himself, bringing the death toll to 28 people. Tragedies like this affect all of us because they are all our children, and we all understand the immense grief that these families are suffering. So we would like to ask you to help send some comfort from around the world to these families. We would like to ask you to join us in a prayer, and then I would ask everyone to chant Om one time for the families and the community of Newport, Connecticut that have been affected by this tragedy.
So I'd like to ask every one of you to just take a breath in through the nose and release the breath out through the mouth. And as you do, release the sound ah, and allow your eyes to close for one moment. And we ask the Holy Mother, Father God, and the center and the heart of all this universe to please feel and join in our earnest prayer for the grieving families of these beautiful children and wonderful teachers who have ascended into the light. And we ask for you to help us open our hearts and pour love, forgiveness, support, and empowerment to those families who must walk through this veil of darkness at this most important time in the evolution of our planet. Let their pain be our pain, their grief be our grief, and let our support them in their healing and the healing of our planet, for we are all one. And we thank you, Most Holy Mother, Father God, for hearing our prayer. Amen.
Please inhale to chant Om. Peace. Shanti.
Shanti.
Welcome. Thank you all for joining in that. 8 years ago, in Vancouver, Canada, I met the woman who would become my best friend, Shonda Perrin, and she's sitting right over here. Many of you may have heard her speak already at this conference. Sean and I had an immediate kinship. Within hours of meeting, we were speaking at such an authentic and intimate level that we were both deeply investing in each other's growth and learning. We quickly began working together. She brought me to Detroit in the United States to attend one of her trainings. I brought her to Canada to speak at an event, and our friendship rapidly grew. I knew with unwavering certainty that investing in Sean's influence and fame in Canada was deeply aligned with my own path, even though at the time I had little idea of what that might mean and where that might take me. I was deeply, deeply inspired by Sean's story of survival. She had grown up in Detroit, which is the industrial center of the United States. Having escaped an alcoholic and abusive father, Sean's mother remarried when she was very young. The new man, her stepfather, carried the wounds of an having been abused himself as a child. He became an abuser of the worst sort. When Sean's mother was away at work, he would abuse and harm Sean in the worst possible ways that a stepfather could. So Sean's home, which should have been a safe refuge, became a place of terror every night when she came home. Like a lot of women, when Sean grew, she repeated her mother's pattern. She married an alcoholic. After having 2 beautiful children, it was actually her children who saved her. They gave her the motivation she needed to leave her husband and get the help she needed to change her life, to start her own spiritual journey. Sean's endurance became her strength, and it became inspiration for others. Her courage in working in her own issues and her own spirituality actually led her to leave her life as a successful reporter and become a trainer of others. It was at this point in her journey that she and I met and became friends. Investing in each other's success, we became the guardians of each other's dreams. It was actually Sean who pointed out to me when I needed to shift my business and change my focus. Because God was sending me a flood of clients and students in one area, and I was loving that area more, but I didn't have the courage to step into it. Sometimes we need our best friends there to say, honey, God is sending you a flood, go with the flood. And it was actually Sean who gave me the courage to start the Evolutionary Business Council. The Evolutionary Business Council is a community of leaders from around the world, people who collaboratively work to help each other in spreading greater consciousness in what they teach, and spreading greater spirituality. And it had always been my dream to create such a community. But like a lot of people, the problem was I didn't feel adequate to living my own dream. Our dreams feel so big to us that it's difficult sometimes to feel that we are big enough for them. The interesting thing is that sometimes we need a best friend to tell us that if God has given you a dream, God has made you the perfect person to be completing that dream. I actually remember the day that Sean pointed out to me, honey, you've really already built the Evolutionary Business Council. You have a huge community of people that you help collaborate and coordinate in helping each other. All we really need is a name and a structure for it. Ironically, it was the Evolutionary Business Council that helped when Sean wanted to step into her dream. Ever since I had known Sean, her dream had been to create a documentary around forgiveness. From the first day I knew her, she said, someday I will make a movie that delves deep into what does forgiveness really mean and will shift the conversation of the planet and change people's thinking and open them up to seeing things with different eyes. And I was the one that pointed out to Sean, it's time to jump off the cliff and get started. And I promise you, if God does not teach you to fly when you jump off that cliff, that I will catch you on the way down. So we created a video that told the story of Project Forgive. And it was her colleagues at the Evolutionary Business Council, the people that Sean had invested in so heavily, that she had built such strong relationships in getting that community started, that stood up en masse and said, Sean, we will be the guardians of your dream. And the really fun and amazing thing was that we thought we were launching a project in a video a few weeks out, but the community said, no, it's Sean's birthday, we're going today. And the video went viral. It actually went viral off YouTube. And in the space of only a few weeks, $100,000 to start the documentary movie. Thank you. And if you'd like to see it, feel free to visit the website projectforgive.com or the Project Forgive Facebook page, because it's an amazing story that's inspiring a movement and a community. The key message I want to leave you with in telling this story is that you don't wait till you're ready to live your dream. You become ready for your dream by stepping into it and living it. And one of the best ways I know is to become the guardian of other people's dreams. Sometimes we need people in our lives that would literally crawl through glass for us. And who have you picked in your life that upholds your dreams and you uphold theirs? So I leave you with this question. If God has given you a dream, then God has given you a purpose. And if you haven't already, when will you step into this? Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today.
First of all, I'd like to say that it's an honor to be here and a real privilege to be invited. And I just love your country. It has been an amazing place to hold the heart open and the energy of spirit front and center in the world. So thank you very much for that. I'm here today to talk about something that has been dear to my heart and I've lived my whole life, and that is that we are now in a grand transition on this planet. And it's coming to a point right at this place, and we know that because of our date and why we all consciously gather, where we are about to make a huge transformation, and yet people wonder, well, what exactly is that transformation? What exactly and how exactly does that look, and how do I know that I'm making that transformation and not being left behind? And in a humble effort to try to share at least what I energetically feel and experience and have observed, that transformation is simply this. We have been living as human beings from a perspective and a consciousness and an energy and a frequency and a vibration that resonates on a soul level. And our soul is the part of us that comes to the planet to learn, that comes and embodies and envelopes ourselves in physical bodies so that we may go through various lessons. And as you know, we call that karma. But unfortunately, we human beings have been learning too slowly. And we can no longer have the luxury of living collectively at this rate and this pace, because as we so sadly are observing, we're not learning quick enough, fast enough, and deeply enough to live our full potential. So we're being supported by the heavens, by each other, and by our own inner knowing. And we are being told that it's time to leave the frequency and the luxury of living at the level of soul and begin to step into and live at the level and the frequency of spirit. Frequency of spirit is the frequency of our divine God self. The frequency of the soul is very much like the one watching. And the front lens of the soul, I actually believe, is the lens of the human ego. And behind it is the story of the human journey, lifetime after lifetime. And the frequency and the lens of the human ego basically boils down to one thing: me against you, and you scare me. So we put up an energy, we put up a force that separates us out, isolates us, and allows us to entertain the illusion that what we do and how we conduct ourselves doesn't affect anyone else. And it's just the grand illusion and the most destructive illusion, both in the negative, as we've experienced what happened in our own country in America a week ago, but also in the positive. What we do, how we live, how we express, how we connect, affects everyone. By moving into the frequency of the spirit, there is no me against you. We are all just one spirit, uniquely expressing that divine light. So the grand transformation from 2012, December 21st, is to step out of our illusions, that we don't matter, that we're not affecting one another, and that we have all the time in the world to learn what we're way overdue in learning. To live in the spirit is the divine mandate that we are all invited here to share with the world, and hopefully the world will be sharing with us. So how do we do that and succeed? Well, I believe that we are given 3 gifts, 3 supports to do that effectively, and without them we will not succeed. The first is grace. God's given grace that is that holiness that breathes through our body and helps us be bigger than our fears, helps us live beyond our limitations, and helps us have the courage. That word, the word cœur, which is a French word which means of the heart, to step out and shine our lights and our love. So therefore we must pray for grace, because we can't demand it. We can only humble to it. By the grace of God we gather here in this moment. By the grace of God we even have the consciousness to gather here and know that this is our moment. The grace of God to give us life, to give us this planet, to give us creativity to make choices. And the grace of God to forgive us, even now. We need that to succeed, so pray for grace. And how can you let a day go by where you can't acknowledge the grace that has been given already? So every evening, thank God for the grace that brought you here. The second tool, the second resource we need to make this grand transformational shift from soul, ego to spirit is guidance. The heart is the first organ in the human body to be developed way before the brain, the thinking brain. That is the second brain. The heart is the first brain. That first brain is the one connected to heaven, to your holiness, to resource, and the one that helps you remember, honor, and live your most authentic, open, loving self. And it isn't an overwhelming energy. It is a subtle energy, so subtle that it feels like a butterfly's wing on your cheek sometimes. It doesn't speak English or Hindi or French, or it speaks energy. So we have to tune inward and begin to feel that energy in our hearts that whispers and informs us. Our inner guidance not only gives us direction in the outer world, but it gives us the direction to stay in integrity, wholeness, so that we don't feel good when we deviate from who we are designed to be as holy beings. When we begin to step off our path of truth, we feel so uncomfortable that we have to breathe ourselves back in. Guidance comes not in the intellect, it comes in the heart. And it doesn't necessarily move your brain first, it moves your belly, because here is where we make our choices. And the third is gifts. Our third resource. We have gifts in three ways. The first is to recognize the gifts from God. The gifts of being alive, the gifts of the planet, the gifts of our breath, the gifts of our physical capabilities, our mental capabilities, the gift of language, the gift of listening, the gift of speaking, the gift of seeing, the gift of being alive and experiencing this wondrous place. And the second is to be aware of the gifts of others that bring us these incredible treasures. The gifts that enlighten and expand our awareness so that we know we're not living in a small world of the past, that every moment is a miracle. The gift of someone's smile, even someone's reprimand. The gift of someone's invitation, even the gift of someone's deference. We are gifted by everybody we encounter in every moment if we'll only pay attention. And the third is to use our own gifts. Purpose of life is very simple. Know your gifts and use them. Many years ago, I had a teacher share with me that the 1,000-petaled lotus that we call the crown chakra, each petal represents a gift. We are massively gifted. 1,000 gifts. It's not like, let me find my one gift, but let me open and share my 1,000 gifts. Let that be whether it's the gift of listening, the gift of supporting, the gift of creating, the gift of writing, the gift of music, the gift of dance, as we just witnessed, the gift of expression, the gift of technicality, the gift of even creating chaos. Because even that invites even more new creativity. Our transformation is upon us. And that transformation invites us to stop living the luxury and the story of soul. The Spirit has no story. The Spirit has no time. The Spirit has no history. The Spirit is light. And the Spirit is expressed in only one way, and that is love. Let each of us become incredibly uncomfortable living in our soul frequency. And let us start yearning, reaching, and beginning. Our expression is light beings, beings of lightness. We talk too much. We take too many notes. We complicate things. And it all gives us reason to stay in story. To live your spirit is so simple. Your country knows. The world knows. It's the breath. Breathe. Breathe with me. Because that is the unifying thread for all of us. Let us breathe our minds quiet and our hearts open. Let us breathe our soul quiet and our spirit open. Let us look at one another and not wait the story, but share the breath, share the spirit. That's why we gather. But even gathering won't make a difference unless we take from this gathering a huge commitment to accept the holy mandate that we are feeling from the universe and the loving waves that are coming to us, that we are being asked to wake up. Let go of our affection for story. Let us embrace our love of spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. May I call upon Mr.